Okay, and I believe we're live. Let me just fix this up for you all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to BWTM Sports. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Just finished watching the Showtime broadcast for Benavides and Gabriel, and more importantly for me, Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios. It's a fight I expect Danny Garcia to win and win well. I think Brandon Rios is the type of guy that will make Danny Garcia look good. After a defeat to Keith Thurman, he obviously wants to get himself in the mix. I don't believe that Brandon Rios hits hard enough to stop Danny Garcia, but I think Danny Garcia hits hard enough to get the respect of Garcia, to get the respect of Rios, and probably stop him mid to late rounds. I actually believe he will stop him. I'm never a big believer of fighters that throughout their careers kind of like, you know, blow up and down in weight. You know, as it goes later in their careers, it's harder for them to lose the weight. Now, Rios is trying to, you know, do the things he should have done earlier in his career, later in his career. But for me, I think Rios is a shot fighter, personally. You know, I think Rios' days are way past. He's way past his best. He's way past his best when he fought. I thought when he fought Pacquiao. But you know, I think the guy still needs to earn a living. If boxing is all he does, then who am I to say he shouldn't be boxing? But when a guy like that fights quite literally with his face, I'm always concerned about the amount of punishment they take. And maybe there might be an all-action fight today for us, but tomorrow, when they are suffering from injuries caused by boxing and get hit too often to the brain, you know, the boxing fans tend to turn a blind eye. We don't have to look too far to see in history how fighters who are all action styles, when they are no longer in the limelight, no longer on television, and the latest fashions coming up and the new fighters come through, that there's a tendency to forget those fighters that gave us so many exciting fights, fought for their face. And boxing is about hit and not get hit for a reason. And you know, it's quite sad how these fighters are forgotten. But anyway, my point is, I believe that Danny Garcia should win, and win quite well against Brandon Rios. There is something I'm seeming to notice in boxing. There's a new strategy, particularly, I think maybe because the casual market is becoming so, when I use the casual market, I don't mean that in a disrespectful sense. And I say casual, I mean that in the sense that when I refer to the word casual, I refer to it as, maybe I don't use casual, not somebody who is they'll only watch certain fights, not watching all the fights. I mean, in some ways, maybe I'm a casual because I don't watch every fight in boxing, but sometimes I get boxing overload. I personally do now. I hate get fuzzy, and then sometimes they're boxing about, so I can't be able to watch, and I just won't watch them. But what I'm trying to say here is, when you've got casual guys who don't really watch the box sport that often, and you get guys like Brandon Rios and Bonnier and a few others who have had good careers, been former world champions, and now they're at the end of their career, you're almost trying to recycle them. And then what they say is, a lot of these promoters are saying, well, you know, back in the day, they don't talk about this conditioning now. They'll say, well, back in the day, he did X, Y, and Z, and yes, that's what we know them for. But really, they're a shell of the fighter. It's almost like a recycling process. So it looks good on a fighter CV. Even if they're beating the shell of a fighter, it still looks good on their CV. So I guess the theory is the last thing a fighter loses is their punch. But the reflexes are not the same. The desire might not be the same anymore. The ambition, they're fighting for a few pennies now. They're grateful to have a fight, as opposed to before they were the world champion and they were running things. Things are a lot different now. hard to get fights on televised shows or pay-per-view shows. So there's a difference, and you know. So the recycle fighters, I see a lot of recycle fighters now, more so now, and I think that's going to be a strategy moving down the line for good fighters to be fighting recycled fighters. Good shape, seeing you in the room for early. So Capney says Brandon Rios looks like he's had his best camp in a long time. I'm proud of him finally being focused. Video is lagging. Is it really? Shouldn't be. Let me just make sure that we've got the right. Shouldn't be lagging. Should be quite clear here. Yeah, I think yeah, Brandon Rios in good shape now, but when you have to focus, like it was almost like with Chris Arreola, when people talk about his weight and his shape, the focus is that when really the focus should be on the guy's boxing ability. So when you're talking about a guy's weight and his shape, it tells you that really the focus is in all the wrong places. Not you, the person saying it, but you know, we're looking at a professional boxer. Their weight should be on task or on point. And clearly, if it hasn't been, there's been a lack of professionalism somewhere in there. You know, I'm not saying it's easy to make weight, but some people make it easier for themselves than others. So yeah. Okay, so I expect Danny Garcia to win the fight. Some people are saying that Benavidez may get upset in rematch. By the way, all the best night to Ray Beltran, fighting for the WBO, I think, lightweight title tonight against Paulie Moses. Wish him all the very best tonight. If there's anybody who deserves to be a world champion, it's Ray Beltran. I believe he beat Ricky Burns the first when he was over in the UK, and that night he broke Ricky's jaw. So it'd be nice for Beltran to win the world title. And then he had a fight against Terence Crawford. Well, Terence Crawford is a handful for anybody in the world, let alone Ray Beltran. So I hope he does well against Paulie Moses tonight, but good luck to both fighters. Okay, I think somebody said something to me yesterday. I couldn't remember who asked me the question. Voice sounds bad. Let me just check this a second. Let me check this. These fighters are forgotten. But anyway, my point is, yeah, thank you for letting me know. I'm just checking it now. Let me check and see if I can sort this sound out for you guys. Microphone. Odd why it sounds like that. Let me see if this makes a difference. Let me go check. Tell me if this sounds any better, guys. Sorry about that. Don't know why my sound will sound like that. Let me see if my sound's any better here. Question. Why it sounds like that? Let me see if it sounds any better, guys. I think this might have to do that silly Windows update. Whenever Windows is doing that stupid update, my sound seems to go like that. So, can you hear me any clearer now? Okay, I think it's due Windows updates. It's a stupid Windows 10 is updates does it. Okay, sorry. So yeah, where were we talking about? I was talking about. Remind me what I was talking about. Talked about Garcia, Benavidez. I knew it was something else. I forgot what I was talking about. But let's talk about Groves versus Eubank Jr. I would say my final thoughts about this. That was it yesterday. Somebody asked me if I'd saw the pre-fight, the workout, the media workout. And I said that I didn't, and I said that media workouts generally are exactly that, media workout. So something for the fans to look at, something for the fans and the media to look out. You know, most of the time in media workouts, fighters hold things back.
they don't let it all out. I've heard many fighters there go media workout. They don't really want to go to the media workout, but it's something part of their media commitment. They don't really want to be there. They just want to be focused on the fight, do the weigh-in. That's what they have to do, make the weight. But they're really interested in the media workouts. A lot of them not. They just find it a thorn. But there are some guys that like the limelight and like all that stuff. The other guys, some experienced pros, just not interested in media workouts at all. But I guess if it's a way of selling extra tickets, then they do what they need to do, like I said before. Now, it's interesting. I've been a believer in sports coaching that you practice what you intend to do in competition. So, like for example, on a cricket field or cricket, for example, where you have, you've got players playing football during their cricket session, and I'm saying, well, you're not going to be kicking a ball when you're playing cricket, so why are you kicking the ball now? In training, when you should be working on things that you will do, maybe you're doing running exercises back and forth, you're not going to kick in a ball. So I've always had a problem with people doing things as a coach, people doing things that are not connected to what they're actually going to be doing in competition. And when I looked at George Groves' workout, the last media workout with George Groves, and I looked at Chris Eubank Jr.'s workout, because I saw Chris Eubank Jr.'s workout first. I saw them flashy combination there. I saw that stuff. I saw that stuff. It all looked great. It looked fantastic for people to look out. It looked fantastic for the media to look out. The throwing off all the combinations and all the bravado and I mean, and I said it looks great. But how much of that are you practically going to be able to do on the night against a guy who can hit you, who's going to be the hardest puncher you faced in your career, probably physically the strongest man you fought in your career, and the most experienced fight you fought in your career at a higher weight division? How does that all work itself out into the fight in the semi-finals? In the fight you lost, you didn't do that. So how does it all work out? Hello, Mr. Celery. Hope you're well too. So how does it all work out? How, Mr. Eubank, does that, what you're doing at a media workout, equal what you're going to do in the fight? And then I looked at George Groves. I saw George Groves snapping the jab, so putting his hand up, throwing the jab, bang, throwing the jab, bang, throwing the jab, bang, right hand, left hook. I can see, okay, right. I can see that. I can see you, the way you're standing, the way you do, and you're doing what you do. I can see you going to do that in the fight. I don't think that's dissimilar to what you're going to do in the fight. I see you very relaxed. I see you putting punches together in a format with a game plan, with a strategy. Eubank, on the other hand, I saw a guy throwing a whole heap of punches and crazy stuff. And I'm thinking, hold on here. Groves, cool, calm, experienced. Eubank, very frenetic, very uptight, trying to load up with every shot. And he actually looked like he's putting everything in every shot. And it's a media workout, and I'm thinking, all this energy you're putting together for the biggest fight of your career, and all that energy you're doing, and you're putting a lot of energy into the workout, where Groves looked very relaxed behind the jab, not putting everything into everything, just smoothly going through the motions. Now, I might be talking complete crap and looking into things too deeply. But to me, one guy looks like there's a strategy and there's a game plan, going to be boxing behind my jab, I'm going to keep it long. And the other guy looked like a guy that's just going to go out there and just try and brawl. That's what it looked like. Boxer, brawler. I could be wrong, but that's how I was seeing it. Then came the weigh-in, and I saw something at the weigh-in. And I said it when I saw Carl Froch against George Groves, the second fight. The first fight, I wasn't fortunate to go. I was unfortunate. I wasn't able to see that fight. The second fight, I was able to see Carl Froch looking straight in the eye, dead in the eye, look Froch in the eye and talk to him. And I remember doing an interview, and I looked Froch in the eyes, and I saw this. There's a sort of gaze they have steely look. I don't know how to describe it to you. A gaze they have where they're in the zone, completely in the zone. I saw that same gaze and that same look in Liam Cameron's eyes before he fought Sam Sheedy. And again, today, at the weigh-in, I saw the same look in George Groves' eyes. The same steely look. When he was looking at Eubank and he smiled at him, he had the same eyes that Froch had, the same eyes that Liam Cameron had. We've seen the two results from those two guys. Just a steely look. Now, that might be nothing, but it might mean everything. We might see the very best George Groves finally in this fight. We might. You know, I believe, I always believe, well, I'm more of a believer now that in some fighters, they come to an head. What I mean is they finally get the message, they get to a head. That's why when Caleb Truex fought DeGale, I said, is DeGale in the decline of his career? If he is, after the Badou Jack fight, I believe Caleb Truex can take advantage and beat James DeGale. I said it, and people didn't think I was crazy when I said it. We all saw what happened there. Well, this fight, there's one guy at the moment that I see has fought the better opposition. There's one guy I've seen that it seems to have a game plan there, and then there's Eubank Jr. doing his own thing. But I could be completely wrong there. The presser was bizarre, and now the weigh-in was weird too. Where did Groves go? LOL. Eubank looks calm. Eubank looks good against static targets. Still wins though. You pick Groves then. Still hope Groves KOs him. I'm still 50-50, lads. Well, yeah, I back Groves. I'm going stronger in that belief in Groves as the fight goes on. As the fight goes, as we get closer to the fight, I'm going stronger and stronger for Groves. And you've got to remember, I like George Groves, but you've got to also remember what I've said about George Groves previously. I've always thought he was a good fighter. I've always called him a TV fighter, entertaining. But maybe he's turned the corner under McGuigan. I don't know. But, you know, I didn't think he looked great against Chudinov until he pulled out the big punch. But he was being backed up by Chudinov a lot. The Cox fight, I thought he looked terrible against Chudinov. Then the Cox fight, the body shot got him out of it. Big punch again. Now he's got Eubank Jr. Big question marks is, can Eubank Jr. take the power? Of course, you know, a jab can shut down everything. Don't care how fast you are. A good, well-placed jab can shut everything down. So, speed, okay, work rate Eubank has. I don't hear anybody saying Eubank's boxing ability. They talk about his work rate. They talk about his hand speed. They don't talk about his boxing ability. When you talk about boxing ability, talk George Groves, because they say George has got an excellent jab. So if George boxes, he wins the fight. Boxes. If he brawls, Eubank wins, I think. Groves looked strained against Eubank this time, more ripped. Look, this time more ripped, defined, and I think stronger. Oh, okay. Groves looked drained. Eubank this time looks more ripped, defined, and I think stronger. Remember, Eubank is eating his way into the super middleweight division, or he's growing into the super middleweight division. You've got George Groves, who's already a big. So you've got a guy who's coming into the superweight division, which is Eubank Jr., and eating his way into the superweight division. And you've got a guy who's been a super middleweight for his career, George Groves, who could potentially be walking around as big as a cruiserweight, coming down to super middleweight. You see the difference? Maybe Eubank may walk around his heavy as maybe super middleweight to light heavy, maybe, but walk around weight, how much that is. But Groves could walk around as a cruiserweight. You know what I mean? He's a big guy. So he's naturally the bigger guy. So now is not what matters. It's tomorrow night is what happens. When Groves rehydrates, then you're going to see the difference. I'm not worried about this business about him being weight drained now. I saw Liam Cameron, yeah. I know it's a lower level. I saw Liam Cameron, and he looked like if he'd come out of a starvation camp. I'm telling you, he looked gaunt. His face was yellow. I thought he looked too weak, but I looked at his eyes. He was up for it. 24 hours later, fight time, the guy was massive, massive, and he was good to go. The guy who Sam Sheedy fought for the Commonwealth title, who Sam Sheedy beat, he came in under the middleweight. He was like weighing 10 stone, 10 stone or 10 and a half stone for a middleweight contest the night before. The next day he came in, he was almost 12 stone for the fight. So I think the weight, he might be doing the weight differently now with Shane McGuigan. So it's something we need to look at and consider. Yeah. And let's see. This going to go the same way as the Gale Truax in my heart. I think so. Groves is big, super middleweight, always looks strained. Yep, but he looks strained, but I think maybe he's got that organized, got better. I mean, he's fought recently. He's fought back to back, hasn't he? Fought, when did he fight? He fought the Chudinov fight, then he fought the Cox fight, and now he's fighting. So he's had, you know, his body hasn't blown up for too long, which is a good thing, to be fighting consistently. Groves seems much calmer. All the pressure on Eubank, really. Don't know many that are picking Groves, really. Yeah, I know, I understand that. I understand a lot of people are picking Eubank Jr. But if you ask a Eubank fan or people who, and I don't hate Eubank, by the way, I do like Eubank. If you ask a Eubank fan, what's his biggest win? What's his best win? And they start to scratch their head. What's Eubank Jr.'s best win? Renner Quinlan? Arthur Abraham? What is his best win? You know, and that's where people start to scratch their head. George Groves, what's his best win? Martin Murray? Glenn Johnson? James DeGale? What is George Groves' best win? So both guys don't have signature wins, a fight that defines them. You have signature losses. Eubank's got a signature loss to Billy Joe Saunders, and Groves has got the signature loss to Carl Froch. But the guys he's lost, now look at the guys that Groves has lost to. Badou Jack, this guy has already arguably beaten James DeGale, moved up to light heavyweight and beat cleverly, and could now go on and beat Adonis Stevenson. And if he beats Adonis Stevenson, and you look back at what happened with George Groves, I mean, Badou Jack's a solid guy. He's a big guy. You know, he's another big super middleweight. Your Carl Froch, well, he speaks for himself. A guy who's beaten Mikkel Kessler, beaten Lucien Boutte. He was number 2 in super middleweight in the world, the super middleweights, behind Andre Ward. And Andre Ward didn't get beat, and he was a tricky guy himself. So, you know, when you put things in perspective like that, Groves has fought the far better opposition. And Eubank Jr., his loss was to Billy Joe Saunders, who's now, you know, put a tremendous performance against David Lemieux. So they've all been beat by top quality guys. Yeah, Billy, as I talked about that earlier on. Don't you think Eubank gets underrated as a boxer because of what Billy Joe Saunders made him look like in their fight? Well, he started slow against Billy Joe Saunders. Let's be fair, he did start slow, but if he'd started fast against Billy Joe Saunders, he could have gassed, and that was the reason why he didn't start fast. Losing in boxing against Billy Joe doesn't mean you're a poor boxer, though. No, but it means you can be outboxed. And Groves is a very good boxer, puncher. I was here last night on my other account, Butterbean. Now confused again. Now after coming here, it's too hard to say. Oh man, Groves ain't a 12-round fighter. If you're knocking guys out, you don't need to be a 12-round fighter, do you? It's true though. Groves can go 12 rounds. He's got decent stamina. Didn't he do 12 rounders last year? I can't remember. He did, but you know, Eubank has been eating steaks for 6 months and grows fish to keep weight down. Go to the Eubanks. Senior throws a towel in. LOL, the Eubanks don't do white towels. Well, we have to wait and see how that works out. So, like I said, from what I've seen in my observation, the workouts, Groves looks like he's boxing to a game plan. Eubank, I ain't got a clue what he was doing at that workout, spending a lot of energy. He's putting everything into every single punch. Fair enough if that's what you need to be doing, but George Groves shows his experience. He's been there. Why would you be concerned about Chris Eubank Jr., honestly? I mean, if you're George Groves, you fought the better opposition. You've proven yourself against the better opposition. Even if you lost, you've proven that you belong up there, you know? So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. But the key point is when Groves connects on Eubank shit. Another thing, Eubank is, when Eubank attacks, he is vulnerable. You know, he's talking about his attacks and him coming forward. He's vulnerable. The whole right-hand side of him is vulnerable. He's open to the right hand of George Groves. Now, don't get me wrong. I think George Groves himself is vulnerable to exactly the same punch, the right hand, because he drops. If you watch Groves when he boxes, he tends to do two things. That's a bad habit he's got now with McGuigan, where he leaves the left hand out there, like I said yesterday. And the other thing he tends to do when he tires, he drops the left hand down here by his side. So he's got no defense, the right hand coming over the top. And Eubank's another one when he gets against the ropes. When he put Eubank against the ropes, he doesn't have any form of sort of defense. His reflexes and moving his head is his defense. So what are the betting odds like in the UK now for the fight? Crazy, I think. Betfred or Corals or William Hill have Eubanks. Of course they would. What does Ronnie Davis even bring Eubank? Just shuts him out. Yeah, there's always been a question of what I've never understood the relationship between Ronnie and Eubank. I guess I remember once when I was just down the road here, and Eubank was before Eubank fought Collins, and I was preparing to fight, and I was running along the seafront. And I remember once I was in town, and I saw Eubank. It was like almost like a neighbor to me, and we were talking, stopped and talked. And I remember actually there's two incidents. One incident, I was running along the seafront, and I remember him having a red car. He actually bought Ronnie a car. I mean, I guess he has looked after Ronnie Davis, Eubank Sr. He has looked after Ronnie Davis. A peculiar relationship they have, but one that's lasted a long time. So what we may see in public might not be all that it's cracked up to be. It might be something very different behind closed doors. So for them to have had, listen, the father had a relationship with Ronnie, and then after that, the son, now his son, he sent him to Ronnie Davis as well. So there has to be something there. What? One day I'll get them to talk to Ronnie Davis and say, what the hell is it between you and Eubank? Eubank Jr. tells you to shut up. Eubank Sr., you know, seems to do his own thing. He seems to train himself. And now this is interesting. Did you ever wonder why Eubank could never do 3 minutes of a round? Because that's the way he used to train. I remember Jim Watt saying, you train the way you're going to fight. And I remember watching Eubank, and he'd do runs along the beach. He'd run, stop, do walk grass, run. He did things, everything at his own pace. So a lot of times you saw him showboating and posing and doing all stuff, doing all this stuff. He was catching a breath. That's what he does. So his idea was, Eubank was, you know what? I'll win the first 6 rounds. I'll pop the jab and beat him with a jab for the first 6 rounds. So then there's no way I can lose the fight. Once I've won the first 6 rounds, and then, you know, I fiddle my way around for 2, I won the fight. You ain't knocking me out in 12 rounds. So Eubank had it down to fine tee how he had his career for most of his fights. Of course, the Nigel Benn fight was a little different because he was forced to fight. So Eubank only did as much as he could do in his career, or as much as he wanted to do in his career. Only when he was forced into big fights, Watson, Benn, and then in the rematch when he fought Watson, Eubank went and I think he got his brother, Simon Eubank. Was it Simon or Peter? One of the two. I never confused the two. They look alike. Took him along and took him for big runs. That's why Eubank was able to keep up with Watson in the second ill-fated fight. So my point is, if it's like father, like son, then I'm just trying to understand the psyche. Is it potentially that Eubank Jr. is going to take up a lot of his father's good habits and some of his father's bad habits in training? I don't know. I don't know. Ronnie is the member of their family, like a father figure to Senior. He said it in his past. Ronnie is an old man now, I know. Ronnie looked after Eubank when he came from New York. I know, like a son. I've read Eubank's autobiography. Yeah, interesting. All, but that's why I said to people when Eubank was first starting his professional career, I said, and it was confirmed afterwards because I understand the Eubank psyche. Eubank is the kind of man that he would only be satisfied his son was good enough to box, and he would be comfortable with it if he turned around and see his son get a complete shellacking. And if he came through that shellacking, they said, yeah, you got my support. Kind of like, you know, tough love sort of thing. And he confirmed it years later. He confirmed that same belief system. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting fight. It really is. But you see, I think the skill level, when we talked about Akoli and Chamberlain, that was a fight where both guys are very young in their careers, inexperienced in their pro careers. And this will be a different situation. I don't think we have to worry about that, particularly from George Groves' point of view, because he's been there, he's seen it, he's done it. You know, coming into the tournament, at one point, I thought Groves was going to be the favourite to win the tournament, you know. It's always, when it comes to fight time, people start getting the old 50-50 things. At 15, Eubank said, go to Ronnie at the gym and he will decide if you can box. Yeah, I remember watching on the Eubanks, a TV show. Yeah, I remember watching that. Right. Ronnie looks like an old nonce. Ronnie's a lovely guy. Let me tell you something. Ronnie Davies is a lovely guy, and he's got a sharp memory. I remember when Ronnie used to come to our gym, when I used to train. And he remembered me from all those days back in the day when I was like 20, 21. I saw Ronnie about a year around Nick Blackwell fight, and I went up to him and he saw me straight away and he knew who I was. That is something for you, right? 20 years on, he knew who I was straight away. And all the people he's seen around the world, he knew who I was straight away and remembered me and my trainer. So Ronnie's a good man, real down to earth guy. Eubanks and Ronnie is like Customado and Mike Tyson. Thing Ronnie not dead. Groves looked weak. Don't worry about him looking weak. He ain't fighting tonight. He's fighting tomorrow. Say that to George Groves tomorrow. George Groves won't be weak tomorrow. You've got to remember, the one thing I have faith in, regardless what they may say about McGuigan being a PE teacher, one thing I'm sure is that for the scientific things and getting Groves in shape, I think Groves is going to be in the best shape of his life. I believe that. I actually believe, and I can't believe I'm saying this, we're going to see the best George Groves. I really do believe that. Whether it's enough, I don't know, but I'm backing Groves. Eubank Groves preview on ITV4 now. Thank you very much, Boxing Killer. Appreciate that. Beowulf Boxing, hope you well. I'm trying, my friend. I'm trying. Bookies have made a mistake, Ingram. Groves will be huge tomorrow. That's my point, Johnny. Good to see you in the room. I haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, I know. I'm really going with Joe. I'm feeling more Groves for this fight. Groves looks slimmer and possibly fitter than normal. That's another point. I've been saying that. We're looking to see more speed. And you know something? There's another thing. I saw Groves on the pads, right? And I saw Eubank on the pads. I don't know what Eubank is talking about, Groves being slow of hand, because to me, his punches look to me sharper than Eubank's. There was a sharpness about Groves. Maybe I'm seeing things, but he seems sharp on the pads. Sharp in the sense like a different type of sharpness, you know, where you're throwing all these punches wild and crazy, and that looks great to some. But to me, I like to see Groves, the jab, the long with the jab, the right hand, the left hook. That looked nice and sharp and quick. His hands would move quickly. They weren't slow at all. Nice, sharp movements. I like what I saw from Groves. He looked sharp to me. So him looking slimmer and possibly fitter might be the fact that he's not, I wouldn't say he's struggling to make the weight. Maybe, remember, we've got to remember what the other thing we need to consider is the George Groves under Adam Booth and Paddy Fitzpatrick, and the George Groves under Shane McGuigan. It usually takes a trainer 4 to 5 fights for you to start to see what that trainer has done with that fighter. And you know, Groves has had to go from a transition from Booth to Fitzpatrick, to Shane McGuigan. And as I said, it might take 4 to 5 fights for us to see the transition. And when we talk also transition, body transition as well. Rose, you know, the way he was making weight beforehand may be different to the way he's making weight now. Under different tutelage, you know, he may make weight differently. He may be putting different things in his body. And, you know, it might be extra muscle that's weighing him down in big fights. That's why he may be tiring. They may have worked down to, you know what? Maybe you're coming in too heavy, too muscular, too bulky, and we want you to be lighter so you can be sharper and sharp, fast twitch muscles. That's why he may look leaner for this fight and not so bulky and miss the muscle. That might be a reason why. I'm just speculating. I don't know. I'm not in the cam. I could be talking whole rubbish, but I suspect that that's what you'll see now is under the McGuigan era with Groves, and where he's probably eating differently, training differently, so the body structure looks different. Okay. If it's weight drained, but why is it weight drained? Why is he weight drained? You remember, these guys want to come in as close to the weight as possible. Take no chances, because you don't want to be losing your belt on the scales. Okay. Remember, this is a big guy, George Groves, coming in, you know, to make the super middleweight division. Coming to probably has to cut more weight than Eubank Jr. Eubank's moving up, remember, and Groves is moving down. So, you know, I believe it's easier to put on weight than it is to lose weight. So, especially if you're naturally a bigger guy. So this thing about, I don't think George Groves is weight drained. If George Groves had to fight tonight, then we can have the discussion. Okay. But how many fighters have you seen look gaunt beforehand, and then the next day they look great? I don't think so. I don't think Groves is going to be weight drained. I think Groves is going to be in good shape. I really do. Really, really do. He may just look tight at the weight because he's older now. He's always been at super middleweight. Remember, he didn't move up to light heavyweight. So There might just be different ways of him making weight. So I'm not too concerned about Groves being weight drained. I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not. I know he has struggled to make the weight, but I think by now, and because of the format of the Super 8 series, he knows his schedule. He knows I'm fighting him here, I'm fighting him here. And I think guys like that who have to struggle to see, another guy who I think struggles to make the weight, but they don't say anything, is Gennady Golovkin. I think he struggles to make the middleweight division, despite Abel saying, "Oh, we can move down to fight Mayweather." That's all bravado. I actually think they struggle to make middleweight. They won't admit it because that means they'd have to force him to go and fight up at super middleweight. And you start giving away advantages when you move up to super middleweight. You know, if you're struggling to knock some guys out of middleweight, moving up to middleweight against guys who are naturally bigger and stronger than you, that is then a concern. So I think they keep that quiet and trying to keep Gennady fighting as regular as possible. But I really believe that the fitness, I mean, he is weight drained, Gennady Golovkin, I do, but he's struggling at the weight. Groves will be 190 pounds tomorrow, ready to go. Ready to go. That's what I think. Eubank won't gain a lot of weight tonight. I don't think he will either. I hope Groves gets the win. I think he deserves to get rid of the tag loser. He lost to Froch, zero shame, and he loses the close one to Jack. Again, no disgrace. Now, let me tell you something here. The Badou Jack fight, I said it to people who were jumping up and down about George Groves. George Groves is going to win against Badou Jack. They said, listen, George Groves is not winning against Badou Jack. Forget it, it's not happening. Because there's certain things I thought, there's certain attributes I believe you need to beat George Groves. And Badou Jack had it. I thought Badou Jack had a better defense than Groves. I thought Badou Jack had just as good a jab as Groves. I thought Badou Jack was a better inside fighter than Groves. And I thought Badou Jack could punch. That's why he dropped Groves as early as he did in the first round. And I said he'd drop Groves, and he ended up doing that as well. I want to know how Eubank takes body shots. Not chin shots, body shots. That interests me. Do you think Groves' skin tone is the type that could easily play a part in the fight? Skin tone is the type that could get cut easy. Well, yeah, when guys are losing weight, that can be. When guys are losing weight, yeah, they can. I think that they talk about elasticity of the skin, where they can get cut easily. It can be a concern, but I think that happens with guys that are really, really tight at the weight, and guys that that can be a problem. But I don't know if Groves. I couldn't answer that question really. The pace for Groves will tell, and he will probably lose in the second half. Possibly. You are also saying that for that to be the case, you would also be saying that you're actually saying that Eubank is going to stay with him for the second half of the fight, which is a big thing to say, because you're actually saying that Eubank is going to be able to walk through Groves' bombs, is going to be there in the second half of the fight, and that means that if he's there in the second half of the fight, then he would have walked through some bombs by Groves. And that would also mean that there's a possibility he could be tiring, because he's getting hit harder than ever before in his career, and he's fighting a guy that, you know, could be putting certain pressure on him. For people to say he'll just walk through Groves, he'll have to do something that Badou Jack didn't do. He'll have to do something that Froch didn't do. He'll have to do something that Digel didn't do. I've never seen anybody walk through George Groves. Nobody's walked through George Groves. And I don't think Eubank is as good as Badou Jack. Personal opinion, I don't think he is. I don't. Groves had the same look in his eye the first Froch fight. I think he knows his career is on the line here. Yeah, of course, there is a threat for that. I would not. The look he's had in his eyes. I wonder if Groves has seen a sports psychologist, and I wonder if the sports psychologist has been key in this fight against Eubank Jr. And I wonder if he learned from what Carl Froch did to him in the second fight. Remember where he was like, I don't need a sports psychologist. That's showing weakness. And he realized that actually the sports psychologist helped Froch win the mental battle against him. And that was checkmate for George Groves in that studio that day when they were in the studio. Now, we all have a bit of a push and a pull. That was checkmate for George Groves right there in the studio. That psychologically, I think, you know, at the point where George Groves, Carl Froch asked him a question, and George kind of open mouth looked at him. At that point there, I think Froch psychologically had George beaten. So George this time round, I said, all right, maybe, possibly, he's seen a sports psychologist. I would not be surprised. And someone like Shane McGuigan would encourage George to use a sports psychologist. But you can even see in George's face, he's not a very good poker player. You can tell when Eubank is saying something, and if you go back and look at him at a press conference, he's got sometimes that sad old boy look. Look, he's insulted me, but I'm going to play tough. I'm going to pretend it didn't upset me. But you can see on his face, but he's just more experienced. He's either more experienced or somebody said to him, you know what, don't get involved with Eubank. Let your fist do the talking. Hat and skin, yeah. I don't think Groves has got a hat and skin, has he? I don't think I've seen Groves get cut too often in his fight career. He has got a red blood. I remember when he fought Kenny Anderson, and I like Kenny Anderson as a super middleweight. Thought he was going to go on and do things, but he never did fight that rematch against George, did he? Am I still in Ireland? No, I thank God I'm not in Ireland. I'm back in the UK, and I'm loving being back in the UK. I see Groves handling Eubank in clinches. This is going to wear Eubank down in stretches. Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. I think Groves has got to feint a lot. Don't allow Eubank to set his feet, because that's where he's going to generate his power. And then combinations on the move, double jabbing Eubank and let Eubank come onto him and counter Eubank. Lots of fakes, let Eubank come forward and hit him. And beyond, and then when they tie up, walk Eubank back to the ropes, tie him up, frustrate him. Don't allow him to set off shots. Lots of countering, lots of feinting. That's how George wins the fight. I think Okoli versus Isaac. Yeah, but you know, the other thing you have to look at here for a second, their amateur backgrounds. You know, we've looked at fights of recent times, but the guy who hasn't had the greatest amateur career has been the guy that has failed. Okoli Chamberlain, look at that. This fight with O'Hara Davis and Josh Taylor. Could the answer to this fight lay in the amateur careers? George Groves had a far more, I would say, far more in-depth amateur career compared to Chris Eubank Jr. I could be wrong there, but I'm sure Groves had a much better amateur career. Eubank is not the Terminator. He may think he is, as many, but he can be hurt and can only hide it for so long. Of course he can be hurt, because he hasn't been hurt yet. He says, oh, this chin doesn't have an off button. My response to him would have been, who's been pushed, who's been switching the light on and off in the first place? George Groves' lights got put out, but who put his lights out? Carl Froch. We don't know what would have happened if Eubank Jr. got hit with the same punch by Carl Froch in 10-ounce gloves in such a massive fight, whether Eubank would have been put to sleep as well. I mean, so my response to Eubank Jr., if I were George Groves, being, okay, my chin doesn't have an off button. Yeah, it didn't have an off button until I hit you on it. So Groves could say that, because it's almost like the thing with the Joseph Parker thing. Well, Joseph has never been down. He's amateur or pro. I said, okay, I've said that to Dave Higgins. Well, that's nice. He's not been hit amateur or pro, but he hasn't been hit by Anthony Joshua yet. And until he gets hit by Anthony Joshua, it's all hearsay. And you can do what you want with the sparring with 16-ounce gloves and big head guards. It's different getting hit with 10-ounce gloves. And I wouldn't want to be in Eubank's position on Saturday night with an illusion, believing that I felt George Groves. Well, did you feel him in 10-ounce gloves? Or did you feel him in 16-ounce gloves? There's a difference. I think, you know, and now when we were messing around with George Groves, we were messing around with George Groves at the point where he got knocked out by Carl Froch, or you're messing around with George Groves after he got beat by Badu Jack, or you messing with George Groves after he beat James DeGale? Well, what point in time were you messing around with George Groves? Or what state of mind was George Groves in when you were sparring with him? All very, very, what was he moving on the day and when they were sparring, and all sorts of other things. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying sparring is sparring and big fight is big fight. You remember when Frank Bruno said he handled Tyson in sparring? And you saw what happened in the fight. I mean, Henry Tillman beat Mike Tyson in the Olympics. Yeah? And Tyson fought him in the pros. What happened? Tyson knocked him out in the round. I don't know why he keeps talking about sparring. They're not having a sparring session. Yeah, George, ABA amateur champion and world games in Morocco, lost in semis, I think. Yep. I do think Nick Blackwell hurt him for sure. This is it's this stupid warrior code where you can't show it. We will see come this evening, he will be hit harder than he's ever been in the fight so far. That's the thing. What happens? Question is, what happens when he gets hit and hurt in the ring by a guy who's a seasoned fighter, who's come with the intention to take his head off, and isn't Spike O'Sullivan? Right? What happens? Blackwell fight was a massacre. Eubank not hurt slightly. He went to the gym next day. Yeah, that's a different level. Blackwell didn't have punching power as Groves. On his Instagram, if Eubank chose to go to the back foot early, what will Groves do? Drawing forward on the jab. You can't win a fight on the back foot if the other guy's not throwing punches, can you? Eubank has to come forward. Momentum is forward. All them punches you see him throwing, he's got to get momentum. Groves is not. Just remember this. Like I said with the Pacquiao fight, Pacquiao throwing all them punches looking great on the pads. Groves is not going to stand in front of Eubank Jr. like this and say, all right, now hit me with your best shot and she's gone. Hit all them combinations, she's gone. He's not going to do that. So I don't know all that. Who exactly are you hitting? And what the opponent's 4 foot tall? It's good. I don't know, box fit sort of box aerobic sort of keep fit class fitness first exercises, but that don't mean anything personally. It's yeah. Bruno was 19 and Tyson was 15 sparring, so there you go. I think Eubank's chin will hold well, but we will see. Yeah, it could hold well for a shot or 2 shots, and it might not even be the chin. All this time he's talking about his chin. How does he take a body shot? They say if he takes a good shot to the chin, level him to the body. And we know George Groves can hit to the body and to the head. To me, honestly, the more complete fighter is George Groves. He can box. He can punch. He can fight off the back foot. He can fight on the front foot. Not so sure about him fighting on the inside. Has a very distance. But I always said I would like to see the Adam Booth version of George Groves against Chris Eubank Jr. That George Groves, I believe, beats Eubank Jr. without even I don't think twice, because you've got the sniper in George Groves there. Say bang, throws your shots in their way. Like how I fought Glenn Johnson. Right, Glenn Johnson didn't walk through George Groves. Glenn Johnson, and he's got one of the toughest chins in world boxing. He didn't walk through George Groves. Right, this is the same Glenn Johnson who took Roy Jones's best shot and knocked Roy Jones out. Glenn Johnson. Okay. Groves a rather young boxer still. White Mayweather, right? If he loses, yeah. See, that's the thing about boxing. If this was UFC, right? That's the difference between boxing and UFC. If this was UFC, even if he lost the fight, people say he's a great fight. He'll come back again. But in boxing, we'd love to use the word, is he going to retire after this fight? Why should he retire after the fight? Because he lost against another fighter. He should get back on the bandwagon. He lost. All right. James DeGale lost. Should he retire? James DeGale versus George Groves, too. I'd love to still see that fight. Yeah, Glenn Johnson was a walking out. Glenn had 20 losses too. Yes, I agree. He had 20 losses, but he had a granite chin. Fantastic chin. And that's what I'm talking about. A fantastic chin. He could punch. He fought us high. He fought us light heavyweight. Very strong guy. You don't mess around. I'm not care about the losses. I don't care losses. He also won, and he was also a light heavyweight champion, and he also beat Superman Roy Jones Jr. You know, where Roy Jones was pretty decent still. So Johnson's a good fighter. My gut tells me Junior's youth and fitness will get him through a knockdown. Yeah, but again, it's not anybody knocking him down. But then, having said that, the question is Eubank's chin better than Carl Froch's? Carl Froch got dropped in the first round by Groves, and I would say, arguably, George Groves is a better fighter now than he was when he fought Froch the first time. Experience, know-how, trainer, consistency, world champion. When he fought Froch the first time round, he didn't know where he was at. He didn't know what he was. He didn't know how good he was. I thought he was thrown in too early. And I'll always say you got thrown in too early against Froch. Yeah, he's a year younger, Eubank. A year younger. So, okay. So just before I end tonight, I want you all to also check out an interview I did a couple of interviews today. Did an interview with Peter Fury, the trainer of Hughie Fury, and former trainer of former world heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. So check out the Peter Fury interview. Check out the interview with Bermain Stavern, former WBC heavyweight champion of the world, talking about a comeback. In my opinion, I think that there's going to be some major changes with Stavern and some major announcements coming soon. I'd like to see at the tail end of his career, I'd like to see what he's going to do moving forward. And his thoughts and his views on Groves versus Eubank Jr. Of course, Peter Fury, same thing. And Mahib Fazaldin. If you want real talk from a guy that says down to earth as they come, Mahib Fazaldin is brilliant to listen to. Check out his preview of Froch versus Groves versus Eubank Jr. And also check out, if you haven't seen already, our mini documentary of Carson Jones, who spent the week with Carson Jones in camp while he was in the UK, picked him up from the airport, and he spent the week with Carson Jones in his lead up to the Cheeseman fight. So check that out as well. Eddie's not happy he's not showing this. I'm happy for Sauerland. Wish him all the best. World Super Series, and it's on ITV4. Brilliant. I hope it's a smashing success. Froch has admitted that Groves' punch was the only time he'd been unconscious. He fought some big hitters. Biggest Eubank face was an old Arthur Abraham, who Paul Smith went the distance with. Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. And I'm sure that he was stunned. I'm going to go back and look at the Spike O'Sullivan fight. So I'm sure Eubank was stunned by Spike O'Sullivan. And I'm sure that Saunders got his attention as well. So I'm going to go back and look at those two fights, because they're two fights I want to look at again. Right. I think I'm done here, unless I've missed anything out. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share the video, like the video. Smash that like button as you're listening to this. It's really good. It's very, very good. I like it when I see the like button. Very nice. Appreciate it. So I think that's about it. You will have to pick Bermain up from the airport if he comes to the UK for Briggs fight, if that happens. Production of Super Series has made Matchrooms look pretty poor. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess so. But if I say anything, people say I'm hating on Matchroom. So, you know, cheers for another good show, Ingram. Thank you. You're welcome. Cheers, Ingram. Great show. I appreciate it. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed the show. It's just an opinion. It's just an opinion. I wish George Groves and Eubank Jr, my neighbor now, the very best success for both guys. And the most important thing in this whole world of boxing, that the most important thing is that each fighter goes back to their home, to their family, to their loved ones unscathed. And I pray and hope that each fighter, each and every fighter that gets in the ring to entertain us is able to spend their hard-earned money afterwards healthy and well. And one other thing I want to say before I close, and great interacting with you all tonight. Also nice to talk with No Silly Abuse. Hope you all enjoyed tonight. Yeah, it's good. I think I've blocked a lot of those trolls and abusers on the channel from last year. I did a lot of blocking. Block. Some people are offended. Look, I don't mean to offend anybody, but I will say this much. That if you come under a shady name and you come on the channel and you're giving me abuse on the channel and you think I'm not going to block you, I'm going to block you. Whether you like it or not, you're going to get blocked, because I don't see why I should be abused for basically sharing an opinion. That's all it is. Don't forget, tomorrow night we will be live right here on BWTM Sports doing the commentary for George Groves versus Eubank Jr. Yep, live commentary, so you can listen to it and watch the fight and listen to my lovely voice live and exclusive on BWTM Sports. So yeah, it'd be great if it was on ITV1, of course. So maybe there's plans in the future for that. Yeah, I was going to say, my final point is David Haye. Listen, a lot of people say a lot of things about David Haye, but the one thing I've got maximum respect for him for, he's now promoting boxing. And you know what? It's great to see a fighter that's coming to the tail end of his career already in promotions. That's great, because many fighters, when they finish boxing, they lose it because they've got nothing to do afterwards. It's great to see someone like Haye, you know, applying his trade in another area. Really good to see. I'm really happy for him, and that he's on Channel 5, and you know, not Channel 5, Dave TV. I'm so happy for him. And of course, shout out to Mick Hennessy. Good to see him back on Channel 5, British heavyweight title fight with Sam Sexton and Hughie Fury. Looking forward to that as well. So yeah, we're looking forward to doing some work with the Furies in 2018. I think that's about it. Thank you all so very much. This has been BWTM Sports, and I am out. You should apply to a local radio show, Ingram, to do a weekly radio show. You know, I have thought about that, you know. I have thought about that. Might just check out my local radio station here in Sussex and see what they have on offer. Good night, all. I shall see you tomorrow. Take care.